Welcome to the TEP Foundation Education Seminar on Resume Building Workshop and How to Have a Better Interview. My name is Versacci. I am very happy to make this presentation today with you. And at the same time, my focus is to concentrate on those who are recently graduating or about to graduate and looking for a job. Looking for a job is a lot of hard work. I'll go into a lot of details, and it can be made easier by some of the suggestions I'm going to make and some best practices. Just a little bit about myself. I was chancellor of my chapter, Epsilon Mu, at Hunter College in 1965. Hunter College was a community school, part of the City University of New York. We had a very small fraternity system. We only had 4 national fraternities, and we had a number of local fraternities at the time. As chancellor, I was very excited to be very active with the chapter. One of the major accomplishments that we did together as a chapter, we were the first fraternity on Hunter College campus to actually have a fraternity house. We were a community school, so we didn't need housing, but we had many brothers came from various boroughs of the city, so it worked out very well. I consider that one of my greatest accomplishments along with my chapter. I was also the first Undergraduate of the Year Award that in 1965 when I graduated. It's now called the Doc Schwartz Undergraduate of the Year Award, named after Alpha 1. When I graduated from Hunter, I went to get my master's degree at the University of Southern California as graduate resident advisor of the chapter, helped to re-establish on the campus. Then after that, what I did was I went to work for the National Fraternity as Assistant Executive Secretary. When I left that employment in 1969 to join Wall Street, I was very active on the Grand Council for many years and eventually became the International Council of TEP from 1981 to 1983. Very exciting 2 years. We expanded a lot. We had around 88 chapters at the time. We were very big national, as far as we were concerned, one of the largest periods that we had in our history. When I left councilship, I became president of the TEP Foundation for 6 years. And with the help of many people, many trustees and donors, we expanded to 27 scholarships for the foundation, as well as some other programming that we did. Today, I'm a current trustee of the TEP Foundation and been very active with the foundation all these years. A little bit about some honors were given to me by the National as the Bridge Builder Award, which I was very pleased to receive. And then my corporate experience, which I rely on a lot over 40 years almost, in human resources and general management. I was formerly the Vice President of Corporate Training for the Amerada-Hess Corporation, which was a multi-billion-dollar oil company. Extensive recruiting on college campuses as well as recruiting overall. In addition to that, after almost 20 years at Hess, I left and joined Xerox Corporation. And I was manager actually human resources manager to handle a lot of acquisitions and client management issues. A lot of recruiting was done in that regard because Xerox wanted to establish a European customer care center based in England. So I went there for almost 2 years, worked with a number of countries, 6 European countries, to establish recruiting and staff where we had a pan-European customer care center based in England, servicing the France, Spain, Italy, Germany, and Switzerland. Very interesting because I had to deal with the government labor unions, as well as the recruiting and staffing that organization. In addition to that, I was also Vice President of Terminal Operations and President of the Fuel Oil Burner Service Company for Consul Oil Corporation, which was the largest fuel oil distributor in New York City. I left Hess because one of the reasons why I wanted to get an actual hands-on management experience besides human resources. and I managed 3 terminals, seaport terminals that we had in New York City, which terminals received oil by ship, and then we trucked it out to customers. Also, I've been a consultant to a number of corporations, Alcoa, New England Electric Power, other industrial corporations. Before I retired, the 2 years before I retired, I was manager of industrial relations, compensation, and benefits for Yonkers Raceway. Yonkers Raceway was thoroughbred racing and was really dying as a track. It wasn't doing very well, and they were able to get a license to be a casino. New York State gambling is not allowed. We were able to do it through video gaming and machines that they had. And when I joined them, we were 50, the racetrack had 50 employees. Within a year, we had almost 900 employees, which I and the team recruited and trained and established the casino. It's doing very well today. That's a little bit about me. Let's go into our presentation now. Last year was a difficult year in the job market. Now, my focus today with you is those of you who are in undergraduates who are getting ready to employment, or recent grads is my focus. What I have to say can be applicable to anybody who's looking for a job at any time in their life. And I think that that would be something to keep in mind. The pandemic really had a big impact on recruiting and on hiring, et cetera, as it did the whole economy. And it cooled down over the past 2022, and statistics are very interesting. That in 420,000 jobs per month were established versus 560 per month in 2021. It was still a growth over time. It just was growing. It grew. It appears companies were not replacing openings, most likely have layoffs. That seemed to be some of the things that happened in the job market. Campus recruiting, because of the pandemic, stopped to a greater extent, but it resumed in 2022. And an article that I have for you on Wake Forest University, that's when they really started to the Wake Forest University slide, please. Forward. That's it. Okay. They're back. Employees returning for on-campus job recruiting. I thought this was a very interesting article. This was in 2022. And you see here students that are on-campus recruiting event. I'd like to point out, I'm happy to see, look how well dressed the students are for job interview. That's a very important point. We're going to go into more detail about that. But regardless, your appearance is very important, and what you wear for an interview, et cetera, is also very telling. What happened with the recruiting there, many companies started to go back to campuses to do their recruiting. And also many companies started to activate their website. As the next slide will show you, the next slide, please. In 2023, the job market increased substantially. 9.6 million jobs in 2023. Many of them were in private and government payroll. It increased by 336,000. Unemployment held at 3.8%, which is basically what it is today. In recent reports that have come out. And unemployed persons are unchanged at 6.4 million. However, 5.5 million are seeking employment, more jobs available than there are people looking for them. There are a lot of opportunities to apply for a job this year. Next slide. Where do you find jobs? Well, any place you could possibly look, you can find a job. Websites, company websites is certainly one way to do it. Social media is another way to see what's going on with companies, etc. Referrals and contacts. I couldn't emphasize that more than anything else. Most jobs are really gotten through contacts and family associations and knowing people and asking. So you really have to network to find the jobs. Obviously, newspapers still have ads for jobs. Hiring agencies, talent agencies, recruiters, professional societies. If you are interested in a particular profession, whether it be engineering, accounting, or legal, or whatever, you should really look at the professional societies, and they always have jobs. They give you an idea what the job market is in that particular industry. And of course, campus professional services, on-campus interviewing. Your schools will probably have a recruiter, someone on the staff that manages the on-campus. I've done hundreds and thousands of job interviews on campus over the years that I was actively involved in human resources. Internships is another way of getting a job, and that is largely through website and on-campus recruiting. Of course, overall networking is a word that is probably overused, but it's very, very important because by attending events, seminars, presentations in your industry, you get an idea, you can get job leads. Next slide. In 2023, companies offer how do you apply for a job, and companies offer applications for employment. Paper copies of applicants may be available upon request. Most companies still require a CV or a resume. Resume is very, very important to establish, and we're going to go into how you develop one if you don't have one, or how you can improve on one that you do have. And critical to any job is cover letter. Now, the cover letter could be one that you could write by hand, or you could do it by email, or send by snail mail or regular mail. Most likely, emails today is the most prominent use of getting the cover letter across. One of the things that you need to know is the job requirements. So in your cover letter as well as your resume, make sure that the requirements of the job are keywords are in your resume, because most companies screen resumes through a process where they'll sort out those resumes that have those requirements that they're looking for. Their chances of getting an interview or chance of getting a response will be greatly successful. Next slide. Okay. There's no perfect way to do a resume. You could ask 10 people how to write a resume, you'll get 20 answers. What I'm trying to do is give you some concise, practical practices that I found in my many years in doing human resources and as well as recruiting that would be helpful. Most importantly, you have to keep your resume clear and concise. Proofread your resume numerous times. Now, be careful with that. I remember one time I had a resume and I put down that I added $1 million in further opportunities to increase volume of sales. By error, instead of $1 million, I had typed 10 million, which was not possible. I didn't see it because I always read it as 1 million. So you have to make sure that somebody else read your resume to find that it makes sense and that everything is what you expect it to be. Also, your resume should be no more than 2 pages. Even 1 page if possible. There are ways of doing that. It depends on your career, how many years you are looking for a job. I'm assuming most of you are starting your job hunting now in your beginning career, so 2 pages should be very, very sufficient. Now, if you could tailor your resume to the position that you're applying for, well, it may not be a specific position. It could be the industry, law, or advertising, accounting, whatever it may be. Make sure that your resume addresses that as as background for that particular position. The key thing is the cover letter. I remember I was employed someplace else, and I wanted to apply for the job. Actually, it was at the Yonkers Raceway. And I wrote an email to the recruiter. I pointed out that I had an experience in helping to establish short-track betting in my career. I knew that would be important because they had a lot of regulations in the casino in New York State, etc. I got a call immediately from the Vice President of Human Resources, and that led to my resume and meeting a number of people and getting hired and spending a year and a half there. I retired from that job. So it's very important to have a good cover letter. And then in that, what you've accomplished, be honest. We all like to think we did a lot of good things, and certainly we should point that out. But don't give any false information. Don't blow up something that's really not necessary to do. Honesty would be very important. Quantify your achievements in chronological order. What I mean by that is that whatever you accomplished, spell it out and use simple words and action verbs. And one of the things that can be very helpful to you, next slide, please. I recommend very highly this website called resumegenius.com. A very, very creative website that will help you construct your resume if you don't have one. Even if you do have one, they recommend that you start out with a pattern of creating a new one. Very helpful. It'll give a lot of suggestions. It'll give you regardless of what your experiences are and how to phrase it. It suggests various templates for you, and it's free. The only thing you have to pay for, if you want to print something, I think they charge you $2.95 for the first 14 days of using the resume, and that way you have a various choices of templates, as well as even cover letters they give you as well. So again, I recommend it very highly. Very, very easy to do, especially those of you that are familiar with working with a computer. That'll be very, very helpful. So I recommend that. As I mentioned, the cover letter, you need to really capture the interests of the individual. And as much as your resume may be geared to the profession or the trade that you're looking into, but if you mention something specific, why you are appropriate for that job, that would be very helpful. And just be yourself. We're going to talk about an interviewing, and then your cover letters will certainly give you an opportunity to be considered for employment. A very basic question, but I really think you have to give some real serious thought to. Ask yourself, why would they hire me? If you're able to answer that question, you're going to be able to be very successful in your interview as well as in your resume. And there are a lot of reasons why they would hire you. You may have experience, you may have knowledge, you have desire to achieve certain goals, you have a desire to be in a particular profession or industry. But at the same time, what are you going to bring to it? But why don't you remember, there's always competition. Always going to be compared against somebody else. So what makes you stand out? Your intelligence, your willingness to work as a team or as an individual, you're a quick learner. There are a lot of reasons you can think, and you'll also find in the resume website I pointed out to you, they give you a lot of good ideas as well. So give that a lot of thought. And then why do you want to work for that particular company? What is it that you hope to bring to it, as well as what you hope to get out of it? What are companies looking for? Depends on the company and on the description of the role. Accomplishments have at this point? An accomplishment could be you're a track star, you did academic excellence, you were a leader in a fraternity or in student government, whatever your accomplishments are, or you actually have employment where you did things that you accomplished as an employee. Then is there a sense of urgency? Do you really want to work? Do you really want to get a job? One of the things that always turned me off as a recruiter was that people, well, I'm looking for anything. What do you have? No sense of direction that they want. So it's important to give a sense of urgency why you want to be employed. And understand the goals and objectives of the company that you're looking for. What is it they're accomplishing? How are they doing? And how your prior experience meet or exceed company expectations in the chosen field. Knowledge about specific company industry needs and trends. With the computer today, you got with the Google and everything else, you can get any annual report, recent news, client or industry trends, or that you're familiar and you understand and you can express that. It's impressive because it means that you are really interested in that. Probably will make you stand out compared to other candidates. Now, what value can you add to the company? Well, it could be that you are a quick starter, quick learner. You work well with groups, you work well with other individuals, you're a team player. Those are the things that they're going to be looking for. But of all, anything else, you can't be something you're not. So just be yourself. And I think that'll come across and then be very much in your favor when you're particularly for an interview. This is a sample cover letter that you find in the website that I talked to you about. And these are rather extensive cover letters. They don't have to be that extensive. I think if you just highlight what it is that you think you could bring to the company and what makes you stand out compared to other candidates would be the key words to use. I gave the example that I had prior experience with off-track betting, which dealt with government regulations, which was an important issue for the Yonkers Raceway establishing the first casino under New York state laws. So that got the attention immediately, I know, of my recruiter. So if you point out, but then give me some examples of it. It doesn't have to be as long, sure, but a cover letter is very, very important. One thing I don't like happens today, and I rebelled against a few of them, and I don't recommend you do that, is the personality test. Companies today are doing that than ever for various reasons. May not be, I'm not sure exactly what's going on in the active job market today, if they're doing many exams, testing, but some companies certainly do, the major corporations do. And they, most common ones is the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the predictive index behavioral assessment, risk assessment, caliper profile, the SHL, occupational personality questionnaire, and the Hogan. Also, companies have their own exams. I remember being interviewed by a psychologist as well, going through their exams. Key thing about any of these personality tests, answer questions the way you think don't answer questions the way you think they should be answered. Only answer how you honestly feel about the topic and will give an honest representation of yourself. Don't lie. They have ways of detecting that through algorithms and so forth, and you'll see a couple of examples I'll give you in a moment. Just be yourself. Answer it the way you honestly feel. If you don't agree with something, you say that. If you agree with something, you say that. And because they will tell you, the tests are very sophisticated. They can tell if you're not being honest enough, and you certainly don't want to have that because you won't get any further with it. So if you think if you think you can take an exam, they won't hire you. That's for sure. some examples of personality tests that they have, and just give you a quick review. You can look up any of the tests that I showed you, and there are plenty of examples of them. And they are basically what your opinion is. Now, these are statistically analyzed because they test these on various people and applicants, and most good companies have very professional tests that have been validated. So that's why I'm saying just be yourself and don't give anything you think you should want to. That should be the answer, not actually how you feel. You should really tell you how you feel. And let's face it, if you're not a fit for the company, it's best that you don't work for them anyway. So therefore, it's really mutually beneficial to both parties. Pre-interview. Resume, of course, cover letters are important. This is where the rubber hits the road. Make sure that you research the company, that you particularly do an on-campus interviewing, or you're going for any company in-personal interview, or on Zoom, whatever they do these days. Research, you can make sure you understand what the company's about, how long they've been in business, what are their ups and downs, how many employees do they have, what are their markets, depending on what it is, or if they're a legal firm or accounting firm, what kind of clients do they have. Make sure you understand that in today's world, you're able to do that rather easily on the computer, so there's no reason why you should. Then, after you do that, practice some common questions and answers. They're going to ask you certain questions, and you'll get that from the website I mentioned to you. For example, why do you want to work for us? Why are you interested in being an accountant? Why are you interested in being a lawyer? Why do you want to go into engineering? What do you know about our company? You can have these are basic questions you should ask yourself to begin with anyway, and then they possibly will in some form will be asked to you in the interview. Get to understand what the job description is. Make sure you understand what the requirements are. Most companies that do post these jobs do give the requirements as well as the description of the job. Make sure that's something you want to do every day for the near future. And have a handle on that. And then most importantly, how does your background and skills fit those requirements? And you have to explain that to the recruiter. He's not going to be able to find it on his own. You have to really point that out to him or her when you're being interviewed. Now, some very basic things. It may sound very simple, but they're very, very basic. And they're very important. Always wear business attire. You saw in the Lake Forest announcement about on-campus recruiting. Every candidate there, I believe, had a sports jacket on. It certainly looked businesslike. And that's important, obviously, when you go for an interview as well as you do on-campus interview. Shine your shoes. It's simple. People don't even think about it. Maybe some people don't wear shoes, they wear sneakers, which I wouldn't wear sneakers to interview, but certainly shine your shoes. Shake interviews. Oh, sorry. Shake interviews hand. I remember when I was starting to recruit, when I was actually job hunting, I shook the hand of a woman interviewer, and I was nervous, and I was so tight. She said, "Oh, you pressed my hand so hard," because I apologized. I said, "You mean that, obviously." So be careful when you shake hands. Don't make it weak and don't make it too strong. It sets it off in the wrong tone. Make eye contact throughout the interview. I don't like when people are looking around the room or looking at it. I'm the person there. You're the most important person in the room. You may have even 2 or 3 people interviewing you as possible. Always keep eye contact. That shows perseverance. It shows your social skills, and you also be able to engage the interviewer as much as you can. Answer questions directly. Don't hover. Now, if you don't understand the question, sometimes I didn't understand the question. I answered it, and it was stupid because it was not the answer. It was not the right question. What I've learned the hard way, and hopefully you will know it as well, is that if you don't understand the question, say, I'm not clear what you mean by that, or what is it that you want me to cover, or admitting that it's not a fault. It only shows that you're paying attention. You want to be communicative with the interviewer. Don't fidget, chew gum, or make or put off movements and remarks. You may say, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, you'd be surprised. I hate to tell you that in all the hundreds of interviews I've had on campuses or in company interviews, some people just really turn you off when they have off comments or they're chewing gum. I can't believe that, but that's what happened a number of times to me. And they're just jockeying all over the place. So just be aware of your body language. Don't slouch in a seat. That's the other thing. Sit up straight as much as you possibly can. Get confirmation our interview was going. Show interest. I call that take a sounding. You know, the Indians used to track people. The way they do that is they put their ear to the ground and taking soundings. During the interview, you can do that. If you think it's going well, say to the interviewer, am I answering your questions completely? Is there anything you want me to cover more? Or I'm not sure I understand this. Can you explain this to what you're looking for? And just show interest in the interview. Just answer it, and that's it. Always thank the interviewer for their time. That's certainly in the follow-up letter as well, but particularly then and there. Remember, if it's on-campus interviewing, during the day, they're probably going to see between 8 and 10 candidates, depending on the school, depending on the size. It's a long day for them. So taking the effort to thank them for their time is most appreciative. Another point I wish to make is never challenge your interviewer. I remember when interview at that time I worked for the oil industry. There was a lot of reevaluating what the oil industry should be doing. Mobil decided to buy Montgomery Water department store. Our chairman at the time, who was Leon Hess of the Hess Corporation, said he's not going to diversify out of the oil industry. He's going to stick to what he called his knitting, but he knew the oil industry best. The interviewer said to me, the interviewee said to me, well, why don't you guys diversify? And I explained that was not really in the best interest of the goals and the objectives of the chairman and where he wanted the company to go. And she said, well, I think that's really a mistake. You should really do this and do that. Meanwhile, Montgomery Water turned to be a failure for Mobil, incidentally. And Leon has happened to be right, because what he did was he expanded the corporation just this past year. It was sold for $53 billion by the Hess family to Chevron. So he certainly knew what he was doing. On the other hand, if there's something you don't agree with that the interviewer has said or expressed, you don't have to take it and sitting down. You can say, well, that's one way of looking at it. I think another way of looking at it would be this way. It's not as a challenge, but as you're willing to express your opinion about something, which means that you're not going to just sit there and decide yes. So you have to really balance that. But an outright challenge is something to keep away from. I'd be surprised how many times there were challenges that we got, and especially today, I see it seems to be even more so. So just be aware of it. It's not going to help you in the long run, in my opinion. What do you do after the interview? Well, you want to move forward. Simply a thank you note to the recruiter. Probably email is the best way to do it. Remember, you are going to be one of many people they're going to see, so you have a lot of competition. So in your thank you note, express your interest again working for the company. Re-emphasize your value to the company to discuss, and reference the current industry trend or industry event. If something's going on that would be of interest that you discuss in the interview, certainly mention that. And the most important thing is to remind them if there was some interest in the questions that they asked you. Is just they were probing to find out something about you. Told them what it was. Remind them what you told them. That was very important to do in the thank you note. Also, someone referred you for the job, for the interview. Make sure you get back to that person and thank them and let them know how you thought it went. Don't over and under embellish the interview. Just say it went well. I appreciated your reference, bring it to my attention. I think it's a company I like to work for, etc. Most likely that person has some relationship with the interviewer. That could be helpful to you as well. Contact all. You have to give references. Contact all your references. Advise them that they may be contacted. Explain to them why this job is important to you, why you think you're appropriate for the job, so they can emphasize that in their school. Then any documentation is requested. Many times I ask people to send me their driver's license because I needed it for whatever reason at the time. They never did it. So they weren't willing to just give me something basic. I'm not going to pursue it. No company would do that. So if they ask you for something, make sure you get it to them. Simple as that. As promptly as you possibly can, depending on the nature of what it is. Then wait. That's the most difficult part of job hunting. After 2 weeks, if you have not heard anything, then certainly you should do a follow-up email saying that your interest is still in the opportunity to pursue it further. What would be the next steps, or what do you suggest that you do to go forward? Very important. It can be very frustrating as well, but looking for a job is hard work. Simple. Requires persistency, requires follow-up, requires keeping good records so you know what you're doing, especially if you have many interviews. And there's to be patient. I was hoping that this would be a seminar where I would have people participate, but it's not possible to do that right now. So what I'd like to say is that I'm available anytime that you wish to contact me. My resume, you send me your resume, my email address and my phone number is here. If you want to, you can call me before you send your resume. If you have any questions about anything about this presentation, that would be helpful to you. I'll be happy to discuss it with you. I recommend that you do have a resume for me to review. You can do that first, and using the website I suggested to you, or you want to call me, show me what you do have now. We could discuss that as well. So I just want to let you know that please advise me the best time to get back to you. I don't know what kind of response I'm going to get, but I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. So thank you very much for taking part in this. I wish you lots of luck, and I know that you're going to do well if you follow many of these suggestions, and you're going to learn from it. You're going to find things on your own that work for you and use that as well. It should be a learning experience as well as experience of looking for a job. So remember now, TEP's the tops. Thank you.